Sawadee Krap. Thank you for joining me. Today we'll be talking about some of the most important ingredients in cooking Thai cuisine. And although we won't be covering every single ingredient in the Thai universe, I think that the ones that we'll be looking at today are very common in Thai recipes, and I want you to know what they are and how to cook with them. So without further ado, let's get to it. I wanted to start by talking about some of the most important aromatic elements in Thai cooking, and I think I have to start with maybe the most famous of all of those, which is lemongrass. And it is a stock, and as the name implies, it is going to lend a citrus aroma to your cooking, and usually want to buy it in the stock format. It'll come in something like bundles of 4, and how you use it is you just trim off maybe the top 25%, maybe a third, depending on how dry it is feeling up there, and the bottom nub, and then you use that middle part to mince up, and it's going to lend this really wonderful clean citrus personality to your cooking. Very important in Thai food. I mean, I think it says something that you'll sometimes see Thai restaurants that are just called lemongrass or something. It's very important. Another very important element is what's called galangal, and galangal is a rhizome like ginger, kind of looks like ginger. But it has sort of more of a sheen to its skin, sort of smoother skin, and it tastes really nothing like ginger. Ginger is going to bring heat and warmth, whereas galangal is going to bring sort of a cooling pine flavor, and its aroma is sort of reminiscent of something like Vicks Vapor Rub, which, maybe in the world of cooking seems sort of strange that you would cook with, but it really does sort of help to balance some of these other flavors and create that unique, cohesion of flavors. So get used to this one. Another citrusy element, kaffir lime leaves. If you've never had the pleasure of cooking with these before, you're in for a real treat. They have just the most amazing sort of citrus aroma. If you are lucky enough to have access to fresh ones, that's great. You're going to be real amazed with those. But don't scoff at the frozen ones. Frozen ones hold up very nicely and are more widely available. So don't be afraid to use these. These are great. Again, it sort of lends this citrus, clean aroma, and the marriage between like kaffir lime leaf, lemongrass, and galangal. That's kind of like a very important central sort of flavor in the Thai world, and that's what you get when you have like something like tom yum or tom kha. That's what you're tasting, is the marriage of those three things. Other important elements, though, in the Thai world, you're going to see plenty of shallots come up, and if you've never used shallots before, well, it's good to become familiar with them because they pop up in a lot of other cuisines too, and they're a nice ingredient to know about, so get to know it. Garlic, which I'm sure you're already somewhat familiar with, but it becomes an important element in Thai food a lot of times, so keep that around. And for spice, I think it's important, instead of, just adding some sriracha or something at the end of your meal, which is great, don't get me wrong, but if you really want to sort of nail the flavor profile in an authentic way, I think spicing with the proper elements is the way to go, and you do that by using these Thai chilies, or bird chilies as you sometimes might see them called, and they come in the ripe form, which is red, and sometimes you see them in green as well, or a mixed bag of the two, but get familiar with them. They are very hot, so a little bit goes a long way, so if you're timid on the spice, then proceed with caution, but an important thing to have in the Thai world. I also want to mention Thai basil, and this is, the world's saddest little piece of Thai basil, but still to the point I want to make. You can distinguish Thai basil by its stalk, which should have sort of a slightly purple kind of hue to it, and it should have a slightly anise or licorice sort of smell to it, and the leaves are going to be generally smaller and a little bit more sort of sharp-lined, oval sort of situation than the traditional or than the regular Italian basil. Thai holy basil also comes up sometimes, just a little bit harder to find, but it's important to be on the lookout for that. It can be a really great element in your cuisine as well. Now let's talk about some of the important sauces in the Thai pantry. When you go to make stir fries, you're oftentimes going to see a combination of oyster sauce and soy sauce and something that's called like a Thai seasoning sauce, which is kind of in the realm of a soy sauce, but it has a distinct flavor, so it's not exactly replaceable. For oyster sauce, I have here a Chinese brand, but they do make Thai brands as well, but this one's pretty widely available. Oyster sauces tend to be fairly interchangeable, but if you're uncertain about the quality of the oyster sauce, you want to look at the ingredient list, and the first ingredient listed should be oysters. So it maybe sounds a little funky, but it really is a nice sort of umami contributor in the stir-fry sauce world. Moving on, we have soy sauce, and this is specifically a very popular Thai brand of soy sauce. If you are new to the world of Thai cooking and you don't want to go too crazy with your first purchase, and maybe you already have like a curcumon at home, you can use, curcumon as a substitute. But once you get to the place where you really want to nail the flavor as exactly as possible, or if you're wondering like, oh, why does my stir-fry sauce taste quite different than the one that I get at the restaurant? Well, you're going to want to use a more traditional Thai soy sauce. And this one is widely available, quite popular. If you go to most Asian grocery stores, you should be able to find this one. So when we talk about the most important sauce in all Thai food, the title has to go to fish sauce. And if you've never cooked with this before, well, you might be intimidated or afraid even, and it has sort of a funky smell to it. But consider this: if you've already eaten Thai food and you enjoy it, then chances are you also like fish sauce, because it's so common in so much of Thai cooking, and you really can't do without it. So just take that leap of faith and go for it. Yes, it's made with fermented fish, but what that does to your cooking is it brings not only a saltiness, it's going to bring a depth of flavor with that funkiness, and also this sort of roundness of flavor, which we call umami. And you just really can't go without it. Plenty of different brands out there in the market. Golden Boy is pretty popular. Three Crabs as well. Red Boat's the fancy expensive one. I've actually never used this one before, but it's all they had at this small market I went to, and it's been pretty good to me. So get yourself a bottle of fish sauce and embrace that beautiful funkiness. And just quickly, I wanted to cover a few other pantry items that are important to know about. I have here curry pastes, which are really great. They're packed full of a lot of different aromatics, and they're really useful when you want to make a flavorful dinner that comes together pretty quickly. These are three of the most popular types of curry. I've got green curry, Penang curry, and Massaman curry. And when in doubt about how to make a curry, you can even look on the back of these containers, and they usually tell you the general guidelines. And if you're going to be making curry, you're going to need coconut milk. I really like this brand here, though there are many brands. So just, if anything, look on the back, and you should see that a high percentage of the can's weight is actually pure coconut extract, and that's going to signify a good quality coconut milk. And not super common in too many Thai dishes, but I have here a can of bamboo shoots, and I really like throwing them in a lot of my curries, so it's worth knowing about. You'll see this at a lot of Asian supermarkets, so just be on the lookout. A couple other little things here. I've got some palm sugar here, which is very common in a lot of Thai recipes. And again, you technically, could use a regular sugar to substitute, but when you want to nail the nuance of flavor, you're going to want to have elements like this to really get you there. And if you're going to be making fresh rolls or summer rolls, these are rice paper wrappers, and they come in packages like this, look like this, and you just soak them in warm water briefly, and you're ready to go. But yeah, you should see these in probably the rice noodle aisle. So keep an eye out for those if you want to make summer rolls. So thank you for joining me today. I know we've really only just scratched the surface with exploring some of these most ubiquitous of Thai ingredients. But remember, there's a lot more interesting things out there to discover. But I hope that these get you started on your way to cooking more Thai food at home. So enjoy and cheers.